All right, Sedge, I know I've been gone for a little while. What the heck is this thing?
It's our new bandsaw. A couple years ago, we got rid of the 1968 belt that I had. It had a lot of hiccups. Over the years, I've had a lot of 14-inch bandsaws. This is my first time I've gotten a single frame. I have been resawing it now for about a week. It's a Harvey. It's the Alpha Series HW615. I am so thoroughly impressed with this bandsaw, and maybe because it's new, but there are some things on here that I'll go through with you today. But the number one thing is I have it set up for resawing.
What's resawing?
Okay, it's taking a board and resawing it, usually taller material that you can't do like on a table saw or however else you would try to do that. So tall material and sometimes even narrow material. So I'm going to show you how I set up. I'll show you a couple features on this bandsaw as we go through it. But this is number one of a series of videos we're going to do this fall on bandsawing.
That's awesome.
This is one of my favorite tools in the shop.
Let's do it.
Not to go too much into the bandsaw, but one of the things I really dig about this bandsaw is you see this tension lever. I tension that 3/4 blade. Okay, it is tracking perfect because of the tensioning I've done. Now I removed the window, which I have right here, so we could film this. But the way I was taught to set up a blade, I have a 3/4 blade on here for resawing. Okay, and that's my wheel and tire. And when I measure, and I'm gonna see if we can get this, Chris, I use the whole blade from the tip of the tooth to the back. I don't use the center here. I put the center from here to here, and that's on the center of the wheel. I set it up yesterday, so I'm just gonna take this. I'll go into tensioning blades at another time. But I never had these on my older bandsaws and my 14-inch, but I just love this because now I have my tension set for 3/4 and I can release that. Now the reason you have a tension release is because if I left that set up like that for like a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, what'll happen is that'll actually start to compress the bandsaw wheel tire. So now when I'm done today, I'll just take it like this. I still have the exact blade tension I want on there the next time, and it's tracking absolutely perfect. Remember, from the tip of the tooth to the back of the blade, find center and then find the center of your wheel. So now I want to make sure that my table is 90 degrees to my blade at full tension. This is important for resawing because you don't want that veneer or that board that you may be keeping angled. So I'm going to take it like this. I'm just going to verify. Okay, I have it at 90 degrees. If I didn't, Chris, come under here. I would release the trunnion locks here and here, and this is what's really nice. I can adjust my tilt just like this. Just make sure you have a good machinist square. So Big D, take that square and bring it to the fence, and let's check to see if it's 90. The nice thing about where we have this in the shop is I'm actually looking at the garage door that's a white background. Sometimes a little light right here will set it up, but Chris, if you'll come over here, I'm just gonna walk around. If this wasn't at 90, you have a couple adjustment screws here on the fence. Okay, so we got the blade 90 to the table, and we know the fence is 90 to the table. Everything's locked and loaded.
Let's do it.
Next, we want to make sure that the fence is parallel. So there's a couple ways to do it. I've done it like this. I've taken my finger right here and made sure it's parallel, okay, when it's locked down, and it's fine here. Now, if you want to get really meticulous with this, you can take something you've milled at 3/4 and put it in the slot and bring this over and just verify you're fine here and it's equidistant all the way across. Okay, if we need adjustment, come here, Chris. You have these two adjustments that you can dial it in and out. There's little Delrin pins in there that run really smooth against here. Okay?
Cool.
We are just about ready to go.
Let's do it.
So one of the nice things that I like about this fence is you have the little knob right here that's riding on here. Look how easy it is to move and adjust. It's very smooth. There's a space here and here. You adjust it here. So that little Delrin runs perfectly on there. Awesome. Okay, so when we got this bandsaw, it was set up really well, but I always check check for drift. And I always go by a video on YouTube by Michael Fortune, and he shows how to set up a bandsaw once to accommodate for drift. I was taught when I was younger that I would adjust this fence ever so slightly out to accommodate for because the board wants to drift away from the blade or into the blade. So when we start this up, I'm going to cut this board, and I want to point this out to you. Stop it. The nice thing about this, it has a brake. So once I turn it off, I just pump it a few times and that blade will stop.
Oh.
Okay, because they're cast iron wheels and there's a lot of inertia. That creates a lot of momentum. And that's what you look for in a bandsaw, cast iron wheels, because that will carry you through thick resaws.
Nice.
Okay, so after I make that cut initially with that MDF, this is what I want to check. Yes, I was up against the fence with that. But Chris, if we can get in here, I got a light, and I want to look at the back of the blade. That is set up perfectly because there's no, how do you say, touching this curve that we created. There's no touching of the blade here or here, so it's perfectly lined up. Now, if it wasn't, watch that video I just recommended, because there's 6 bolts under here, and what I'll have to do is align that so it doesn't touch. What I'll do is, Chris, come over here so you can see this. But what you'll have to do is, by trial and error, by adjusting this table, if the back of the blade is touching, there's a bolt here, 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 and here, and also back here. Loosen the majority of them, but keep 2 under tension and slowly maneuver it back and forth. Now, you only have to do this once. Watch that video. It'll make a night and day difference in resawing, and this blade is going to track through that cut like you've never seen. So here's a quick test to check to see if that blade is at 90 degrees to the table. I'm just going to turn it on. I'm going to stop it about halfway and turn it off. So what I'll do is I'll take that now, and if that's perfectly 90, I'll come around and that should slip effortlessly in there, and it does. So we know that's exactly 90. Dust extraction on this. I have it hooked up to a CT, basically 22 and older Festool dust extractor. It does okay. I got a reducer at Rockler the other day. I put it over this 4-inch port, but it brings it down so it fits with my 50mm hose with a coupler perfectly. I sealed off the other one. Now eventually I'll get a larger dust extractor that can bring more volume back. But for now, I want to collect it here. Chris, get in here up by the bearing guides that I have. That way there, it's tracking just right in the way I want it.
All right, Sedge, why the resaw?
Okay, so look at this piece of wood here, right? Okay, I think it's 25mm thick or 1 inch thick. I dug this out of a scrap where somebody was, yeah, it's 25, almost 26mm.
Okay.
Okay, so what's half of that?
12.5.
Okay, so let's just say we're gonna go for 12 because of the curve of the blade. Okay. All right, so what I did is I have a self-scribing right here, and I scribed the center line. Now I could set this up and shim something against here at 12mm, but this is easier to eyeball. Okay. So I'm gonna grab our fence, I'm gonna bring it right over here like this, and I'm gonna eyeball it just like this, okay? Right there, good. I'm gonna lock it in. All right, we're all set. Now, the other thing you gotta remember on this, okay, is there's quite a bit of technique to resawing.
Okay. A
lot of people make or use feather boards that go in the slot and go right up against it. They're great. Okay, but I want to teach you how to use a push block. Okay. So I'm going to resaw this board, and I want to show you as I go through it, okay, the technique on holding the push block. As we go through, you gotta be aware that you're gonna be putting pressure down below as well. Okay. Okay? Because you don't want it to tilt. I'll be watching here, but putting pressure here. All right, and my hands are never gonna be near the blade, and I'm gonna make sure I go all the way through. Okay. Okay, I guess the video's the best way to show this. All right. Okay, it looks like we have 1/2 inch or 12 millimeter thick pieces. We'll measure that in a few minutes. But here's the beauty of woodworking. When you have a nice piece like this, okay? Yes, I saved it for many, many years because I knew I could resaw it. It's called book matching. In other words, with a book, you open it up.
Okay.
And this is what happens inside.
Oh, wow.
Now I just have to join it, but look how beautiful that grain runs. Isn't that sweet? Yeah. Oh my God, feel that, Big D. And that's using our eyes to line it up, but that's pretty daggone close by eyeballing it, right?
Yep. That's awesome.
So there you go. That's one of the reasons to resaw. But I'm going to go through another one here in a minute.
Okay.
That I love a bandsaw for. It will save me a boatload of time with Russ. Okay?
Sounds good.
Recognize this piece of wood?
Yeah, I was gonna say it has those nice arrows from when we were planing it, right?
Yeah, we were thickness planing. The one where no one could hear us over the planer.
What?
Okay. So this is why I have missed a bandsaw in the shop. Okay, I was so stoked to get this bandsaw. If we measure this and we plane this, I remember it started out about, I think it was 6/4, which is 1.5 inches. Okay, and we passed it through quite a bit, didn't we?
Just a few times.
Okay,
yeah.
It was a huge time suck. Let's measure it where we're at now. I think we stopped at about 1 inch or 24.79 millimeters, roughly 1 inch. Okay, we need to take this down for a project to what? About 18 millimeter, roughly 3/4. I like 18 millimeter, I use it all the time. So let's look at this. I'm gonna take this to 18. Okay, and when I look at that, look at all of that. From here to there, that's a ton of passes, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, what I like to do is I like to set up the bandsaw to remove quite a bit of that. We have it fairly jointed here, and this is jointed here. That's what we did in the video. So let's take a little bit more off of that.
Let's do it.
So with that board, we're about 1 inch. I don't want to remove too much because we're still, because of the bandsaw marks on the board, you'll see, we still have to plane it.
Okay.
Okay, but I like to use setup blocks for this operation, and I'll show you. These are really nice. They're magnetic and they stick to the blade. I think you get them from Kata. Okay, but this is what I really dig about it. You see the little recess? When I'm setting up the fence for 1/8, yeah, I could use the scale here, but when I slip it in, watch. That little recess in this gauge block is for the set of the tooth, so you don't have to ruin it by setting it up. So I'm going to take that, I'm going to bring it in like this, and you'll see where it just sets up perfect, and I'll lock it in.
Oh wow.
Now the nice thing is I can just slip that out and not ruin the set of the blade. Okay, Big D, it's time for you to resaw. I'm gonna cut this piece. I want you to see again how I put pressure on here, and as I go through, and then I'm gonna have you resaw that piece we just set up with.
Let's do it.
Okay. Cool?
Yeah.
Now, let's just get that brake on there. So you're gonna see, that was like about 25? Okay, we just took that off, and I wanna point that out. Look, with the curve of the blade, we're about 21, okay, all the way down, so we know we have it. That'll allow a few passes back and forth to do our final dimensioning. We just saved about 10 minutes for this board.
Nice.
So that's about an 1/8 inch thick piece. Let's just measure it out. Oh, look at that, 3.2, 3.1, okay. We will save this because I know someday we'll have to use this for another project.
You betcha.
Good, just slide it back. You don't have to put a ton of pressure. open it up. See what you got. Look at that hot dog.
That's beautiful.
You betcha. So that was really good, Big D. You did a good job. It was nice and consistent. I want to point out a couple of things. See right here, you have that little dip. That comes with doing it more often. That may have been a little hesitation in pushing and learning how to use the slide to push block. Okay, but of course, and hopefully you can see this in the camera, there's a lot of, I'll do it like this, Big D. I'll grab a light. You're gonna see, and this is what the set of the blade does. It creates these little marks. You might have seen it on boards before. That's why a thickness planer to take that out. But the least amount of depth on those you can get, the better. Okay, and it's a consistent cut. Now there's another reason you resaw.
Okay.
Is what if I need a bunch of veneer for a layup and I want them 1/8 inch or even thinner? Then I would resaw veneer. And that is where I just got a veneer blade. I'll show you how to install that in another video, and we'll cut veneer.
Sounds good.
Okay, so hopefully by going through this video, you understand how to resaw, why to resaw, and some of the basic setups. Yes, will we cover how to set up the bearing guides that are on this Harvey Band Saw and a lot of other killer features on this? Absolutely, over time. I just like to, when I teach people about a saw or something new in a shop, I just like to show why we use it. Okay, or what it's for. So we got a lot to cover. I bought a bunch of different blades for this. I get them at Timberwolf blades as well. So, as we always say,
be positive.
Stay sharp.